The white envelope in my mailbox meant one of two things. Either another desperate attempt to sell me some useless extended warranty, or, more likely, another love letter from the HOA. I sighed. I knew I shouldn't hope for anything. Putting the coffee on the mailbox, I tore open the envelope and looked at its contents. Subject: immediate attention required. Dear homeowner, it has come to our attention that your property is not in compliance with HOA regulations. Please rectify the issue within 48 hours to avoid penalties. Sincerely, Linda Davenport, HOA President. I flipped to the second page. The offense? Garbage bins visible from the street. I groaned. Of course. For reference, it was trash day. The garbage truck had yet to arrive. My bins were at the curb like everyone else's. But apparently, Regal Pines HOA had a zero-tolerance policy for bins being outside for even a second longer than necessary. I crumpled the letter, took a slow sip of my coffee, and muttered, "Here we go again." I'd lived in this neighborhood for 3 years. In that time, the HOA had managed to file more complaints against me than I thought humanly possible. There was the lawn mower incident. I had been mowing my front lawn, almost finished, when my phone rang. It was a quick call, maybe about 10 minutes. When I turned back around, there she was, Linda Davenport herself, standing at the edge of my driveway like she had materialized out of the suburban void. "You cannot leave tools unattended," she informed me, her arms crossed like a disappointed school principal. I glanced at my still-running lawn mower. I was literally using it. Violation. She snapped a picture and walked off. Then came the great holiday lights disaster. HOA regulations stated that all holiday decorations must be removed by January 10th. My mistake? Taking mine down on January 11th. One day late. Linda and her clipboard army wasted no time in sending me an official notice about my failure to maintain community standards. And let's not forget Mailbox Gate. One day, I came home to find a printed letter taped to my mailbox, informing me that my mailbox was 0.5 inches too far from the curb. They had even included a photo with a measuring tape for proof. This HOA was like an overzealous hall monitor, but with real fines and a God complex. That afternoon, while I was dragging my trash bins exactly 0.0001 seconds after pickup, I spotted my neighbor, Mike. Mike was a good guy, ex-military, no nonsense, and just as fed up with the HOA as I was. Let me guess, he called from his driveway, holding up an HOA letter identical to mine. Trash bin violation? I smirked. Bingo. He shook his head. Linda needs a hobby, like knitting, or jail. Agreed. I sighed. Didn't they fine you last month for leaving your car in your own driveway? Yep. Said it was unsightly. Was it? He scoffed. It's a 2022 Ford F-150. What do they want? A Rolls-Royce? We shared a laugh before another neighbor, Sarah, walked over. She was holding a cup of coffee and looked just as exasperated as we did. Did you guys hear? She asked. HOA sent a violation to Jeff because his grass was 2 different shades of green. Mike nearly choked. You're kidding? Nope. She took a sip of her coffee. They actually measured the color difference. I ran a hand down my face. We should start an HOA support group. Or a rebellion, Mike muttered. I laughed, but the idea didn't seem half bad. The next day, I was out watering my lawn when I heard the unmistakable click-clack of Linda's heels approaching. I turned just in time to see her and her clipboard squad marching down the sidewalk. She stopped in front of my house, gave me her usual tight-lipped smile, and said, "You do know the HOA has a policy against overwatering, right?" I stared at her, then at my hose, then back at her. It's been on for less than 5 minutes. She made a note on her clipboard. Just a friendly reminder. Then she walked off. I shut off the hose, gritting my teeth. That was it. I could handle the fines. I could handle the pettiness. But this was personal. If they wanted a fight, they were about to get one. If there was one thing the HOA was incredibly consistent about, it was their ability to ruin an otherwise peaceful day. Take, for example, last Saturday. My brother-in-law, Dave, was visiting for the weekend. Now, Dave is a normal human being who lives in a normal neighborhood where people mind their own business and don't, say, measure the angle of your trash bins. So when he pulled into my driveway, parked his car, and rang the doorbell, I could already see him looking around with mild confusion. "Nice place," he said, stepping inside. "But why does it feel like a gated community run by the KGB?" I sighed. "Because it basically is." He raised an eyebrow. "Okay. I was joking, but what do you mean?" Right on cue, before I could even close the door, I saw Linda Davenport, our beloved HOA president, marching down the sidewalk, clipboard clutched like a holy relic. I groaned. "Watch and learn." I stepped outside just as Linda reached the end of my driveway. She gave me her signature tight-lipped, passive-aggressive smile. "Afternoon." I crossed my arms. "Linda." She glanced at Dave's car, then back at me. "Is this vehicle registered with the HOA guest parking system?" I blinked. "Excuse me?" "All overnight visitors are required to register their vehicles," she said, as if this was a completely normal thing to say. I turned to Dave, who was watching this unfold like he had just discovered a new species of insane. He laughed. Wait, I have to register my car to visit my own family." Linda didn't even blink. "Yes, you can do so on the HOA website, or by submitting a written request 48 hours in advance." I ran a hand down my face. "Linda, he's here for one night. It's a car, not a nuclear warhead." She gave me a look. "Failure to register a guest vehicle is subject to fines." Just a friendly reminder. Then, satisfied with her daily contribution to ruining someone's afternoon, she turned and walked away. Dave watched her go, then slowly turned to me. Dude. Yep. He shook his head. "This is a cult." After Dave recovered from the shock of our suburban dictatorship, we sat on the porch while I ran him through the greatest hits of HOA stupidity. I told him about the lawnmower incident, where I got a warning for pausing for 10 minutes, the trash can crisis, when I rolled mine out too early, mailbox gate, when they measured my mailbox's distance from the curb, and, of course, I mentioned the time they cited Mike for leaving his truck in his own driveway because it was unsightly. By the end of it, Dave was just staring into the distance, processing. Finally, he said, "I thought you were exaggerating when you complained about your HOA. But this is next level." "Oh, we're just getting started," I said. HOA nonsense tended to come in waves. Sure enough, just 2 days later, another violation notice appeared in my mailbox. This time it was about my patio furniture. Apparently, my completely normal outdoor chairs were a violation because they were not in line with the aesthetic integrity of the community. I stared at the letter. Then I stared at my chairs. They were beige metal chairs, the same style, color, and general existence as half the houses on my street. So either my specific chairs had been cursed by an ancient HOA sorcerer, or Linda had just decided to screw with me again. I called Mike. "You sitting down?" I asked. "Depends. Are my chairs HOA approved?" "Apparently mine aren't." There was a pause. Then, uproarious laughter. "You're kidding? I wish." They actually wrote, "Not in line with the aesthetic integrity of the community." Mike wheezed. "What does that even mean?" "I have no idea." "You know what you should do?" he said, still laughing. "Move the chairs to the backyard and see if they write you up for having unauthorized seating." "Tempting," I said. "But I think I have a better idea, because by this point, I was done playing defense. It was time to start pushing back." I did, in fact, move the chairs, but I placed them exactly where my neighbors had identical ones. Then I waited. Sure enough, the next day, a new letter arrived. Violation resolved. No apology. No explanation. Just an acknowledgement that they had lost this particular battle. And for the first time in months, I finally had a break from the HOA's nonsense. For 2 whole weeks, I didn't get a single violation notice. Not one. No nitpicking about my grass height. No threats over my unauthorized patio chairs. No surprise inspections over my trash can placement. No Linda showing up like a suburban Terminator with her clipboard of doom. It was almost quiet. Too quiet. It was almost unnerving. Even my wife noticed. You think they're finally leaving you alone? She asked one evening. I shrugged. Either that, or they're plotting something so ridiculous that even they need time to prepare. She rolled her eyes. Can we just pretend for a second that maybe they got tired of harassing you? I smirked. Sure. And maybe a unicorn will mow my lawn tomorrow. She sighed. You know what? We need a vacation. A real one. No mail. No neighbors. No HOA nonsense. And you know what? She was right. So we booked a long weekend getaway. Somewhere peaceful, far away from Regal Pines and its power-hungry clipboard army. No phone calls. No emails. Just relaxation. Or so I thought. We got back on a Sunday evening, feeling refreshed, recharged, and, for the first time in a while, not thinking about Linda and her band of rule-enforcing stormtroopers. That lasted exactly 5 minutes. Because when I checked the mailbox, there it was. Another HOA envelope. I let out a deep sigh, ripped it open, and immediately felt my blood pressure skyrocket. Subject: Urgent violation notice, roof debris. Dear homeowner, during a recent inspection, it was found that your roof is in violation of HOA cleanliness standards due to the presence of pine needles. Please remove all debris within 14 days to avoid penalties. Sincerely, Linda Davenport, HOA President. I frowned. Roof debris? I flipped to the attached photos and froze, because these weren't normal photos. These were taken from above. From directly above my house. Like, from a drone. I stared at them for a full 10 seconds, processing what I was looking at. Now, let's review some key facts. First of all, I have 3 pine trees in my yard. They shed needles. That's what pine trees do. And I usually clean the roof when there are too many needles. Secondly, my roof is not visible from the street. Thirdly, this really means that the HOA had to use a drone for the inspection. Fourthly, that means Linda and her clipboard cult had officially lost their damn minds. I marched straight to my neighbor Mike's house and slapped the letter down on his porch table. He picked it up, read it, and then just stared at me. They used a drone? Yep. For pine needles? Yep. He leaned back in his chair, crossed his arms, and let out a low whistle. They've gone full-blown CIA surveillance mode. I nodded. And I'm gonna fix it. Mike smirked. Oh, I bet you are. Then I showed it to my wife. They used a drone to spy on our house. She blinked. I'm sorry, what? I held up the photos. Look, these angles? The only way they could get these shots is if they flew something over our roof. She snatched the papers from my hand and inspected them. Her face went from confused to horrified. This is next level creepy, she muttered. Who does that? I let out a slow, controlled breath. The Regal Pines HOA, apparently. She set the papers down and rubbed her temples. Okay. But why? Why do they even care what's on top of the roof? No one can see it. I shrugged. Because they ran out of things to harass me about at ground level. We sat in stunned silence for a moment. Then I pushed back from the table, cracked my knuckles, and smiled. All right, I said. They want me to fix it? I'll fix it. Because if they wanted to play games, I was gonna make them sweat. So I waited until day 13 of my 14-day deadline. Then, on a bright and sunny afternoon, I climbed up on my roof and cleaned off every last pine needle. But before I climbed down, I left them a special message. Using white duct tape, I carefully arranged big, bold letters on the side of my roof that wasn't visible from the street, only from the air. Hi HOA. Oh, and below that, a middle finger emoji. Okay, technically, it was just a crude hand with one finger sticking up, but let's be real. We all knew what it meant. I finished, took a step back, admired my work, and grinned. Then I went inside and waited. Sure enough, the next day, I got an email notification. Violation closed, roof debris removed. That was it. No additional notes. No photos. No passive-aggressive reminders from Linda. Just silence. Since then, the HOA has been noticeably quiet. No more surprise inspections. No more random citations. No more Linda showing up like a suburban Sith Lord. For now, at least. But if they ever pull something like this again, let's just say, I've got a lot more duct tape and a lot more creative ideas. The HOA might run this neighborhood. But from now, they sure as hell don't run me.